Small and mid-sized medical practices need all the help they can get to engage patients, give them a great experience, and make money. How do the most innovative ones incorporate IT and AI into their practices to achieve their goals? Hi, everyone. I'm David Williams, president of strategy consulting firm Health Business Group and host of the Health Biz podcast, where I interview top healthcare leaders about their lives and careers. My guest today is Brett White, CEO of Weave, an AI powered platform to manage small and mid sized practices. If you like this show, please subscribe and leave a review. Brett, welcome to the Health Biz podcast.
Thank you, David, for having me. I'm really excited to be here and have a great chat.
Outstanding. Let's talk about the early days, and I mean your early days. What was your childhood like? Any childhood influences that have stuck with you through your career?
Sure. So let's go way back. Um, Pretty normal upbringing, I think. I was raised in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area. My dad was an airline pilot. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so pretty normal. Um, I think starting around junior high, I started spending summers working on a farm, and it was really hot and it was really really hard work with very down to earth people, and that was pretty formational, I think, for me, because I just really learned the value of a dollar and learned the value of hard work. And so if I wanted something, like if I wanted a new pair of boots, I would always say, okay, that I have to prune 87 trees
Yeah.
to buy those boots. And so associating hard work with monetary reward was fixed in me at a very early age. And then also, I learned that from the farmers that I worked with, that simple lives can be very happy lives.
Yeah.
And these are folks who are just working 7 days a week just to feed a family, and they have great families. And so I really got to learn a very different life than I grew up with. Um, and so that was what was pretty important, I think, for kind of laying the foundation.
I want to ask you about the airline pilot thing. So I have some friends whose parents were airline pilots, and depending on what airline it was that they flew for, they had some actually variations of perks. Were you one of the high perk kids that got to do things like fly all around the world in first class, or was it a different airline?
Yeah, so my dad was a pilot for United Airlines, and the red hot plane back then was the 727,
Oh
and
yes,
so that's what he flew till the very end when he flew 747s. But this was back before deregulation, so planes were half empty, half full, and anytime you wanted, you could just walk up to a gate. And back then, you had paper tickets. You would just walk up to a gate and get on a plane, and there would always be a seat. So, my mom would wake up and say, "Hey, let's go to Honolulu for a few days." And she'd grab my brother and I. We'd just go to the airport and get on the plane. So that was fantastic. It was a great. Now, you did get left behind sometimes if the plane
yeah.
was full, but yeah, it was a fantastic part.
Now that's good. Now it's I'm a free market guy, but there's some advantages of regulated industries, at least for the insider ones. So the 727 was the one that had the three three crew, right? It had a navigator along with the pilot and the co-pilot,
Yeah,
and that was one of
yeah,
the
yeah,
that was one of the advances of the 737. You could get rid of the navigator.
yeah. They had the pilot, the co-pilot, and the flight engineer. And
Yes,
the flight engineer actually fixed things that stopped working during the flight. So
nice.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that was a great old airplane. But yeah, then he moved on to 747, so he could retire at a higher grade.
Yeah, that's the way to go. All right, so we got the airlines, we got the farm. And now, how did that drive you into what did you study? When you went beyond high school.
Yeah. So when I graduated high school, I, I took a really hard look at my life and what I wanted to learn, and I decided I really wanted to go to school on the beach.
Yeah,
So I went to the UC Santa Barbara. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I signed up for a business economics major because business seemed like it sounded like a good thing. And I just started taking classes, and I did really well in math and accounting. So, if you're getting A's in something, you just keep taking those things, right? That's
yeah.
better than the things you don't get A's in. So I did really well. And then my grades, I came to my senior year and it turned out my grades landed me an interview with one of the big firms at the time, Arthur Young, which later became Ernst& Young. And so that interview turned into a job. So before I knew it, I was an accountant. I was an auditor.
Nice.
And so I started working in San Francisco for Arthur Young, and I got exposed to a lot of different industries: oil and gas, and shipping, and container leasing, and manufacturing and food production. And I had one client that was in technology, was in tech.
Yeah.
And what I noticed is that the people working there were the happiest people of
Yeah.
any of my clients. And they were also the most casual. They're like t-shirts and shorts. And I'm like, wait a minute, happy people wearing t-shirts and shorts. This is the life. And this was, late 80s. So I decided to see if I could make a go at tech. So I didn't want to be an accountant. I didn't want to be an auditor. I didn't want to be an audit partner. So I said, okay, I'm going to go see if I can get a tech job. So I joined this small, recent IPO software company, about $300 million in revenue, called Oracle.
Hmm.
And I then spent 10 years there, and wow, what an amazing experience that was. But that's how I kind of got into tech.
Yeah, that sounds good. I think I get this theme of like the casual, casual environment, like whether it's the beach or the tech firm, but then working pretty hard once you get there. That seemed to be the theme so far, if I'm deriving one.
For sure. I mean, one of the things that I learned at Oracle very quickly is that hustle matters, and it matters a lot, which was kind of aligned from my farming background, because the crops don't wait. So if
Yeah.
it's time to harvest, it's time to harvest. So I learned early that hustle matters a lot, and you don't defer something till tomorrow that you can just squeeze in today. And throughout my career there, I was able to advance pretty rapidly and pretty consistently, and it all came down to just hustle. And so I've kind of translated, and then also just really that results really matter. And so at the time I was at Oracle, they were hiring MBAs into their corporate finance rotation program, and I didn't have an MBA.
No.
And I just noticed that based on just hustle and results, I was being given opportunities and advancement that they were not. So I'm like, okay, well, it seems like actual results matter. So I'm just going to keep doing what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And I was being asked to do a lot of things I had no idea what to do. My first 7 years, my job was to set up Oracle subsidiaries throughout Latin America, the Middle East, Africa, India. No idea how to do that. But I realized that once you kind of get over the fear that you don't know what you're doing, and if you just put your head down, think it through, you'll probably come out with the right answer. So, just hustle and results and not being scared of stuff that you had no idea what to do worked out pretty well for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, it sounds like a good formula. Simple enough, but not so easy to pull off in
Right.
practice. Well, let's talk about Weave. And I'm
Sure.
interested to know how you got interested in this in the first place, because it wasn't the most obvious next step. Maybe there's a good, uh, explanation for that. But I wonder how you got there, how you decided to embrace Weave.
Sure. So, end up spending, well, I've been in software now for 35 years, and I started my career selling databases to large corporations. So it's a great business. Loved what I learned there. But I decided I wanted to be a CFO. So at my 10-year anniversary at Oracle, I left and I went to be a CFO at a couple different companies. But about 11 years ago, I landed at a company called Mindbody. And Mindbody
Hmm.
makes software for the fitness industry. So think yoga studios, Pilates studios, salons, things like that. Small businesses. These are very small businesses. And I just really, really loved helping small business owners, because they're trying to make a living, feed their family, practicing their passion. In the case of Weave, our customers are usually generally doctors, and so they've spent their lives, you know, studying and training and getting certifications to practice their craft, and there's no plan B for them. This is it.
Yeah. Right.
And so their business has to be successful. They can't just go do something else. So helping the small business owner be successful is just super energizing and motivating for me and my team. So, I spent about 8.5 years at Mindbody. We sold it to private equity, and then one of the early shareholders at Mindbody called me and said, "Hey, I'm investing in this company called Weave. We want to take it public. We need an audit committee chairman. Would you be interested?" And I said, "Heck yeah."
Yeah.
So about 4 years ago, I joined the board, and here's another SMB company that's focused on helping people achieve their dreams. So I'm like, this is awesome. I joined the board. About a year or so after that, it was clear that the company needed some help on the leadership side. So I joined as president and COO. And then a few months after that, I took the CEO role. So I've been CEO for about 2 years, and it's now over a decade of serving small business owners. And what we've does is we just kind of take over and help them on everything related to running their business, so they
Yeah.
can focus on patient care, the clinical side, and let us just help you with easy to use tools, intuitive tools, great support. Let us take the business side. And it's so incredibly gratifying when you get those comments from customers. I mean, we get comments from customers like, "Oh, thank you so much. You helped me run my business. I didn't know how to do this, and now I can, and I can process more patients, or I can provide better patient care." And when you distribute those types of comments throughout the organization, it's like magic. I mean, the
Yeah.
team just really gets fired up about it.
Oh, that's great. I like the path going back to sort of how you got to be running the company. I like the idea of, sort of start on the board. You get a very good, overview of what's going on at the business level, and then you say, okay, this is what's needed, and then you have hopefully consensus among the board that you're a good choice to go and and do that. You kind of know what you're getting what you're getting into. And then take it from there. I've seen some of those that don't work out where they
Yep.
said, okay, we can't hire anybody here, like you do it, or somebody wants to do it. But from the right kind of a circumstance, like it sounds like it was for you, I think that's a great way to do it with someone with your experience.
Yeah, and I think that the one of the great things about it is the board knew me. They knew
Yeah.
exactly what they were getting, right? So it wasn't like I interviewed for the job and made a bunch of
Yeah.
promises and now I need to prove myself. It's like you know exactly what you're getting,
Yeah.
and that's it. And so it's worked out really well so far. And the board and I are still in a great place together, and the company's doing really well, and the team is fantastic, and we continue to grow and add new customers, and it's been really great.
So let's talk about. So I'm glad to hear Weave is doing well. Now, on the small and mid-sized practices, however, I hear I don't always hear that they're doing so well. And I don't mean your customers are because of you, but there used to be, there's a classic sort of, Marcus Welby, and then everything's part of, big systems now, it seems like, but not everything. But how are these small and mid-sized practices faring these days?
Right. So let me, there are, in a category what we would call specialty medical, there's 25 or more of these subverticals. So there's lots of different types of businesses. The verticals that we focus on: dental, optometry, vet, and what I would call smaller category specialty medical, which would be plastics, med spa, physical therapy. Those businesses are, I would say, all doing fairly well.
Hmm.
And we can see the economics, and they're doing well um, because we all need to take care of our teeth and our eyes, so they have pretty consistent demand. And vet is doing great because
Yeah.
during COVID, everybody
Yes.
went and got two dogs, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So actually their problem is managing the volume,
Right.
not attracting revenue streams. So I would say they're all doing pretty well.
Yeah. And of course, all what those all have in common, just to cut you off for a second, is they aren't as reliant on the insurance companies, the traditional health insurance companies, as most practices, like a primary care practice, for example.
That's right. Yeah. So dental is, they're A lot of theirs are treatments, treatment plans. They do the cleanings and the checkups and things, but most of their money comes from treatment plans, which are largely out of pocket. Vet is almost exclusively out of pocket. So I think there's a consistent demand, and they've been able to navigate the portion of their business that is that is insurance paid. Also, it's pretty consistent. For if you're a dentist, you're going to see your patients twice a year for
Yeah.
cleanings. You're going to take a look, do some work, fill some fillings, do some root canals. So it's pretty. It's almost like a subscription business, a recurring business, versus like a doctor, which you generally only go when something's wrong.
Yeah. So what's the key? So, all right. So that sounds like your practice. I'm glad to hear it because it's hard to have a healthy company if your customers aren't healthy. So it's good that,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
unless you're in the bankruptcy field, but, um, and what is key to their success? Like, I mean, obviously some are doing, maybe the sector is doing well, but some are doing better than others. What does it mean to be, successful? What's a successful dental office versus one that's just sort of getting by?
Yeah, so I think there are you hit it right on the head. There are varying degrees of success for these business, and I think it largely has to do with how professionally the businesses are run. So if you think about the Marcus Welby days, it's just like the hometown dentist or whatever. Just they've got their cadre of patients. They're adding new patients all the time. It's pretty much a run rate business. But then you get other dentists or optos or whoever vets who really lean into, I want to build a great business. I want to optimize, and they're focused really on key metrics. So for every consult I have, what's my conversion rate? And same day conversion rates are the most valuable. So they're very, very focused on metrics. What's my time to collect? What's my book to bill? So they process a lot of data and really have key metrics that they're trying to accomplish. And that's where Weave comes in, because we take over and provide tools to automate a lot of those tasks to just make them more efficient. And we also help them on the revenue management side. So whether it be payments, collecting payments, administering payment plans, insurance verification, we really focus on doing everything we can to help their business run both more efficiently, but also increase revenue so they can focus their time on patient care, treatments, and their staff. Staffing has been very difficult for a lot of these businesses for several years, especially since COVID. And so the more we can do to take mundane tasks off the hands of the staff, the better the job is, the more likely they are to stay. And so this is where AI comes into play for a lot of what we're doing. We're not replacing staff with AI. We're just taking a lot of the mundane tasks away and also transferring some of the tasks. So I'll give you an example. We had an AI assistant that we use for responding to reviews. So
Yeah.
you're a vet, you get a review that says, oh, the review says, thank you so much for taking care of Fluffy. She had her hurt knee, and you guys did a great job. And so some people would respond, thank you for the review.
Yeah.
But what our tool does is it actually reads the review and it proposes a response that is specific to that. So glad to hear Fluffy is feeling better. Remember not to walk her too much, So provides it, and then it auto provides, and you can just read it, edit it, and then just hit the send button. So I was talking to one of my customers, and he said, I spend Saturday mornings responding to reviews because that's an
Yeah.
important source of leads for me. He goes, with this tool, does this mean I can hand that task over to the front desk team? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, oh, I just got my Saturday morning back. So providing tools that help these business owners, improve their businesses, drive more revenue, drive greater patient engagement, and actually, get some of their life back is what really gets us out of bed in the morning.
Got it. So I was thinking about, technology, and there's a lot of technology information technology that's deployed throughout healthcare. And I'm thinking about what's the difference between, for a smaller practice that maybe has a single owner versus a larger kind of a system. And you've partly just explained the difference of philosophy, partly getting your life back and being more engaged,
Yeah.
specifically with the patients. But how do you think about the difference?
Yeah. So I think, the large practices, so let's just say part of a big health system, y- I'd say the businesses are very similar in the services they provide. They all do the x-rays and surgical procedures and things like that. But the smaller practices, they are practitioners. They're not business people. They
Yeah.
don't have internal IT. They don't have time to really work with tools that are not super intuitive and super easy to use. And they don't have the ability, really the time to work with organizations that they can't just call immediately and say, "Hey, I need help with this," and have them respond immediately. So I would say that the back office, and they also don't have, some sort of corporate structure providing these tools to them and providing them with guidebooks on how to run a successful practice. So um, I think the big difference is how the businesses are run and the level of skill and time that they have to run them, and that's where we've comes in, because we really want to help them there, take that over, do that work for them, so they can just focus on patient care.
So I see a number of items that you advertise as, part of the value proposition. Some of it is, you'd help to generate reviews from patients, reducing no-shows, improving collections. How does it tend to, is it basically, okay, these some nice to have, but it's really all about just, increasing the percentage of collections, or like how do those different components play into the value that customer receives?
Right. So patient, we focus, I would say, in a couple major areas. Patient experience, which would be what I would call communication and engagement. So their requirements have evolved. You expect to be able to text to with your dental assistant, dental office staff. You expect to be able to do that on your time, not on their time. My wife pays bills Sunday nights, and she expects to be able to pay all my care providers either from a text. They text us, "Oh, you owe us $12." She hits pay through Apple Pay, done, or go onto their website and pay through there, or through some link. When she's told, "Oh, you have to call the office and read us the card over the phone
Yeah.
during our office hours," and either the phone isn't answered or she gets a voicemail, she gets upset. And
Yeah.
then when they say, "Just take a picture of your credit card and text it to us,"
Right.
she knows that's not going to work. So it's really, um, we focus on patient engagement to improve the experience. I mean, I'll tell you, my wife told me that my dentist is not a Weave customer, and the reason is he's in a long-term contract with another provider, so we'll fix that over time. But
Yeah.
she said, "Brett, you need to get a new dentist. Yours is too hard to pay."
Yeah.
There you
Okay.
go.
That's
So,
it.
that's it. So we solved that problem. We create a great experience for the patient. It's like, "Hey, um, I can't make it tomorrow. I'm texting while I'm waiting to pick up Johnny. I can't make it tomorrow. I have to reschedule. Okay, here's three options for next week. Do any of these work? Yes, this works. Thank you. Done. Look forward to seeing you. Boom. Done." And so, our biggest value that we get, or our customers get from our product, is the telephony. We manage all the phone systems, and they're
Yeah.
very sophisticated. They pop up the patient's information, their name, their appointments, all this stuff. Missed call text are huge. 30% of phone calls into these offices don't get answered.
Yeah.
So immediately respond, "Hi, I noticed you called. How can I help?" Appointment reminder texts are a lot of value because that reduces the no-show rate, which obviously goes directly to the pocket. The manual texting back and forth, and then payments, facilitating payments. I've got, one of our orthodontists that we use in the family. I asked him; he's a Weave customer, and um, he says his average days for collection is 4 days,
Yeah.
because it's all
Amazing.
text. It's like, "You owe me money.
Yeah.
Here's a text. It's on your phone before you leave the office. Boom, Apple Pay, done."
Yeah.
I've got another buddy of mine who's not a Weave customer, and his collections will be 3 months.
Yeah.
because they send the paper bill, it gets lost. It's my wife again trying to call Sunday night, can't pay, and they have a pretty high write-off rate. So
Hmm.
we can solve that, help them with cash flow, help them with revenue management, which is a big value to the doctor, but also to the practice, but also to the patient.
Yeah. I'm trying to understand. So some of the examples you've given on the text make sense. Like it's very immediate. If I call, I don't get somebody, I'm going to get a text back.
Yeah.
But I find I don't default to text. I would rather speak with somebody in general. Um, but it seems that's not the preference of patients, or is it just that they're conditioned not to expect someone to answer the phone?
Well, I mean, I think the two-way texting, it's asynchronous, right? So the thing
Yeah.
about a phone call is someone else has to be available for you to talk to you about
Right.
what you want to talk about. And so it's an asynchronous conversation. You can just fire off a text real quick when you're ready. They can respond when they're ready. So it's just, very convenient, very flexible. There's also, clarity and record keeping. You have a record of the
Yeah.
conversation. And so there's no confusion about when the appointment was set. Um, it's just less pressure on both sides. I mean, if you're at the front desk and there's three people standing there and the phone's ringing, you're not going to give you the greatest experience.
Right.
So don't worry about that. I'll respond to a text in 5 minutes. I don't need to do it now. And then obviously the multitasking aspect, you can do multiple things while you're waiting for a response instead of you know you call in and say, I'd like an appointment. Oh, well, we have one on Tuesday at 4 and
Right.
Friday at 9. Well, hold on, let me check my calendar, let me check my wife, hold on a second while I see if those
Okay.
work.
All right. You explained it. I don't know if you sold me, but I understand now why that would be generally the interest. So
It's not
you
for everyone.
mentioned, yeah. So you mentioned exactly. Other people can be on the text, so I have time to. They'll have time to talk to me. Um,
Right.
so you gave an example of the teeing up the responses to the reviews, which is something that certainly has been enabled over the past couple years or so. Probably 5 years ago, we wouldn't have been speaking about that. What's on the horizon? What are the things that are coming that are both kind of cool and also that might be impactful?
Right. So right now we have these tools which make some of the jobs as easier. um, and the review one is one of them. But at Weave, we have over a decade of phone data, phone conversations, voicemails, recordings. So we can use that to train our AI models to be able to answer basic questions, over time, not yet, but soon, on be responsive and take over some of the intake activities, take over some of the texting. So you could actually use an AI tool to respond to questions, like, my tooth hurts, what should I do? Or I'd like an appointment tomorrow at 4. So there's a large opportunity to use a lot of the stored historical information to learn. It's also, there's a great opportunity for determining revenue opportunities. So if you have an AI engine listening to a conversation, they can identify revenue opportunities and provide, hey, you had 26 voicemails yesterday. We think 3 of them are immediate revenue opportunities.
Yeah.
Call those back. The other 4 were for scheduling, and the other 5 or something, whatever it is. So analyzing phone calls and voicemails for revenue opportunities, is a good one. Another good one is just analyzing team member performance and looking for opportunities for business improvement. So if 80% of your calls are for something administrative, knowing that, understanding that, gives you the opportunity potential to adjust how your business is functioning to maybe make those calls go away entirely. Like, if 50% of your calls are like, I never got the invoice,
Yeah.
wow, that
We'll
would
work
be
on
good
that.
to know, right?
Yeah. 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 It's either something about something about your invoicing system, or less likely, but also important to know something about your patients, something
Yeah.
wrong with them.
And imagine if my wife could just call in on a Sunday night and talk to an AI and say,
Yeah.
hi, I need to change my appointment from Tuesday to Thursday, and have the AI just come back and say, okay, no problem. I've made that
Right.
change. See you on Thursday. And it's Sunday night at 11 p.m.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Sounds good. Well, Brett, my last question for you is if you had a chance to read any good books lately, anything that you might recommend for our audience.
Sure. So I'll give you a business book, which is a classic, but I love, and it's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
So I love that one, and I look back at it every now and then to make sure I'm always sharpening my saw.
Yeah.
Um, but I really love U.S. history, and
Hmm.
so a book I read, which I continue to be amazed by, is a book called "Nothing Like It in the World: The Men Who Built the Transcontinental Railroad." And I've spent a lot of time in the Sierras, and it's just fascinating to me what they were able to accomplish with the tools they had available back when they built that transcontinental
Yeah.
railroad. They basically drilled tunnels through the Sierras, and the fact that they scouted it out on horseback, and then decades later, that's where they actually ended up building the freeway with the benefit of satellites and all those things. I'm like, wow, it's just amazing. So that is a very cool book.
Yeah. That sounds awesome. Well, Brett White, CEO of Weave, I want to say thank you so much for joining me today on the Health Biz Podcast.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
You've been listening to the Health Biz Podcast with me, David Williams, President of Health Business Group. I conduct in-depth interviews with leaders in healthcare business and policy. If you like what you hear, go ahead and subscribe on your favorite service. While you're at it, go ahead and subscribe on your second and third favorite services as well. There's more good stuff to come, and you won't want to miss an episode. If your organization is seeking strategy consulting services in healthcare, check out our website, healthbusinessgroup.com.